The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
And that is why today is not tomorrow. Hello there, heroes, and a special hello to all of you watching the Viewing Globe fan event. My name is Sean, but around these parts I'm better known as the Orange Ranger. For the past 6+ years, I have been an internet reviewer primarily focused on Power Rangers content, though I will toss in the occasional curveball every now and then. This video is going to give you folks a little glimpse into who I am and what I do here on Orange Ranger Videos. I'll tell you about the shows I do, the weird things that can happen around me as an internet reviewer, and why I do what I do. So, let's get started. So first, a little biographical info. As of 2020, I am 37 years old. Surprised? Most people guess significantly younger than that. I am from Hialeah, Florida, though I currently live near Valdosta, Georgia. I have a regular job as a retail team leader at a small theme park. But you are not watching the Viewing Globe to get an MTV Cribs house tour or something. Let's talk about what I do. My reviewing journey started in 2014. I'd been watching internet reviews of several different things, but I found my interest honing in on people who shared my love for the Power Rangers franchise. I had watched the show originally from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers through Power Rangers Turbo, and then I refound the show when I was in college and got caught up on the rest of it. I found myself most interested in two particular Power Rangers reviewers. The one that's probably had the most influence on my work is Linkara. Linkara is more well known for his comic book review series, Atop the Fourth Wall. However, and I do realize that the vast majority of you watching are probably already aware of this, so just bear with me for the ones that aren't. The series that got my attention centered on Linkara is another one that he's been doing, History of Power Rangers. For those of you who may be unaware, History of Power Rangers is a series where Linkara reviews an entire season of Power Rangers, recapping the plot and giving his thoughts on it, usually over a series of 2 to 4 videos. He's known for incredibly deep-level analysis, going over the themes and character notes of the seasons, even though it's just a children's show that he's talking about. I found the series absolutely fascinating from the very beginning. Some of the things he noticed were things that I thought I was the only one to notice, and there were other things he noticed that I hadn't even noticed. I just thought that it lent a certain weight to the Power Rangers franchise, proof that it was worthy of that kind of deep-level analysis because of all the interesting things that were found. My other primary influence is Black Nerd Comedy, aka Andre Meadows. Andre is somebody who kind of focuses on nostalgic, nerdy, geeky properties, though really his star has exploded as of late. In fact, Andre has now himself been a Power Ranger, portraying Blue Ranger Eddie Banks on the Power Rangers Hyperforce tabletop series hosted by Hyper RPG. Andre doesn't actually review Power Rangers anymore, but of course at one point he did. When he did review Power Rangers, he took the show one episode at a time, but applied a very similar kind of deep-level analysis, treating it as more than just a children's show. I felt like there was a space to combine these two styles. The very deeply intellectual and analytical view of Linkara applied a single episode at a time, and perhaps a little more off the cuff and with a little more focus on comedy, like Black Nerd Comedy. And, as I'm about to explain, I was already quite experienced at making YouTube videos. An online master's program I had done had granted me a camera. In fact, the very same camera that I'm using to record this video today more than 6 years later. I had started making YouTube videos, and at the time that I started reviewing Power Rangers, I was already making 3 weekly YouTube videos. Almost interesting was my vlog. Well, sometimes it was actually a "this is me going out and doing things" vlog. Most of the time it was more of a weekly video journal. The Miami Sports Report addressed another one of my sets of interest, sports and sports journalism. It was a weekly news report about my favorite sports teams, the Miami Heat, the Miami Marlins, the Miami Dolphins, and the Florida Panthers.
Anyway, this is definitely a season-saving win, like I said. The Dolphins are now 5-5, and like I mentioned coming in, are now tied with the New York Jets for the final playoff spot in the AFC.
And on the same track of doing journalism about something else I was passionate about, Almost Gaming was a weekly news show about the world of video games.
On Black Friday, Target was selling 3DS XL bundles for $150. Quite a deal when you consider that the list price of a 3DS XL by itself is $200.
My very first Power Rangers episode review of Super Mega Force's first episode was actually an edition of my vlog, Almost Interesting, that was something I was just trying out.
What's going to follow is going to be my first episode review for Power Rangers Super Mega Force. If the series does well and I get a lot of responses and people like it, I will go ahead and work it in as a regular series. I mean, in addition to Almost Interesting.
It got a lot of positive responses, so I decided to make it its own video series, and it took off in a way that my other shows just never did. Fans of Power Rangers embraced my content in a way that sports fans, video game fans, and vlogging fans never really did. And that is why today, the Miami Sports Report, Almost Interesting, and Almost Gaming are now relics of my past. In fact, I've attempted to revive Almost Gaming twice to no real success. But my Power Rangers reviews are still going strong. The online master's program that got me my camera actually impacted my channel a second time, as a class on one-man band journalism taught me about the importance of having an identifiable brand. My very first favorite color was red, actually, but only for about a year, and after that it very quickly became orange, as it has stayed to this day. And I just quickly noticed as I became a fan of Power Rangers how odd it was that as wide a rainbow of different colored Rangers as there had been, there was never an orange Ranger. There were Rangers who had orange on their suits, but never one that had been officially designated as the Orange Ranger. The closest thing the franchise has provided is Imaginary, SPD's assistant character Boom's dream of being the SPD Orange Ranger. So, it's a mantle that I took up, and the rest, as they say, is history. Actual history, not the SPD episode history. And in fact, everything that I just got done talking about was history, so let's talk about what I do now. The primary thing is what I just spent a lot of time talking about, Power Rangers episode reviews. To this point, I have reviewed every episode of Super Mega Force, Dino Charge, Dino Supercharge, Ninja Steel, Super Ninja Steel, Beast Morphers Season 1, and the first 9 episodes of Beast Morphers Season 2. By the way, if you are waiting for my reviews of the rest of Season 2, I review the show with its American TV airings. Don't worry, we're almost there. In the past, when the show wasn't airing, I would do topical videos, top 10 lists to fill the space, usually trying to fit them to some kind of a theme. For example, one off-season, I did top 10 lists about the Saban Brands era, the Saban Brands top 10 off-season. However, for Beast Morphers hiatuses, I have been reviewing Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills, a weird little Power Rangers ripoff from 1994. I'm kind of in the middle of the race to the finish, but I should have the entire show reviewed through to its 40th and final episode before Beast Morphers comes back. Bringing up Linkara once again, when Boom Studios got a license to make Power Rangers comic books, I ended up emulating him a little more directly, imitating him, or rather an alternate reality version of myself that became him but to review Power Rangers comics. Like I said, my life can be kind of weird. To review the first 3 issues of the series in a bonus video.
Hello, and welcome to Atop the Orange Wall, where about Power Rangers comics... So you're telling me...
Then I reviewed 3 more of them, and then one of those hiatus periods that I mentioned turned into a comically long hiatus, where I worked to try to catch up with the series as it had gotten past me a little bit. That ended up transforming into a comically long review, a regular series where I did get the comics caught up, covering the amazing Shattered Grid and the horrid Beyond the Grid, and now that I'm caught up, I've reviewed pretty much every Power Rangers comic Boom has released. I mentioned that my former vlog, Almost Interesting, came to an end. However, that does not mean that I stopped vlogging. I just put more of a geeky spin on it. Unmorphed is my current vlog, but gone are the days where I would just yammer at the camera about nothing if I didn't have a particular topic or I wasn't going out and actually doing something. Unmorphed is a travel vlog that I do whenever I'm attending conventions, so you can expect the next one sometime in 2023. Only kidding. Mostly. I've done Unmorphed for several trips to MomoCon in Atlanta, Georgia, as well as chronicling my trip to the very convention that we're paying tribute to today, Power Morphicon in 2018. That was an absolutely amazing, once-in-a-lifetime experience for me kind of a thing. It was my first time on an airplane. It was my first time leaving the Eastern United States. And it was my first time attending a Power Rangers convention. I met people who I am honored to say call themselves my fans. I met people that I myself am a fan of. And I even met executives from Saban Brands who, to my absolute shock, had heard of me and admired my work.
Boothie, Green Rangers face up! Guess what my favorite season is? I'm gonna tell you, it is this one! And that's my favorite Ranger in there.
My last current new show is one that I started during the COVID-19 pandemic, which, to be perfectly clear, is actually still ongoing, but for a time it shut down the publishing of comic books. So I decided, with no new comics to review, that I would start reviewing old comics, the one contained in the Boom Studios published MMPR Comic Archive Volume 1. That show is known as Blast from the Past, and to be honest, I consider that more of a video imprint that I can use to review anything that isn't brand new material. Just a couple more things I want to cover before I clear the virtual stage, at least for the moment. One is another element that I have borrowed from Linkara. I'm not sure you've been able to tell, but I'm kind of a fan of that guy's work. Atop the Fourth Wall has its own ongoing story, with various story arcs told over time. I always admired how Linkara was able to craft really intriguing, engaging stories, despite for a long time himself being the only actor that he had access to. So Atop the Fourth Wall story has an entire rogues gallery of villains, most of whom share Linkara's face.
Get on with it!
Ah yes, cutaway gags. Something else that I borrowed from Linkara. But moving on, as I started getting comfortable doing my show, I found myself working in elements from other series that I was interested in, and this was one of them. This channel also now has something of an ongoing story and a surprisingly large cast of characters. In the future, the Orange Ranger grew disillusioned with reviewing and worked from the shadows and across time to try to stop himself from doing it as the evil Master Shopep. As time went on, the demands for my reviews became stronger and stronger. People began criticizing them as much as the episodes themselves. The pressure was unbelievable. I was being invited to conventions, flying around the country, losing sleep. It was just stress. Oh man. He created a dark, mysterious, magical entity known as the Dark Stranger.
This is my chance. Just a couple of squirts of this love potion, and he'll love this episode. He'll do another review, and his credibility will be ruined.
And created an android duplicate of Orange Ranger, S34N, meant to replace him and eventually drive his channel into the ground.
Current mission is the replacement of Sean. Discrediting him as a reviewer will make him easier to replace. This unit has been instructed to offer you assistance.
The Orange Ranger is not without allies, however. His primary one is a little yellow Wally robot assistant named Kaizoku.
Kaizoku, why don't you handle this one?
Thanks so much for watching the review. Check out some of our other reviews. Subscribe to the channel to see other reviews and videos when they come out. And share this with the Ranger Faithful. Thanks again for watching, and may the power protect you. Shutting down.
And in case you're new to my channel or you just didn't pick up on the gag at any point, I'll go ahead and explain it. Power Rangers Megaforce named their robotic assistant after the first word of the title of the Sentai it was adapting, Tenso Sentai Goseiger. So I named my robotic assistant after the first word of the title of the Sentai that Super Megaforce was adapting, Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger. Around the time of Power Rangers Dino Charge, a mysterious yellow gun found its way to the Orange Ranger, pursued by a weapons collector known as Hunter. Whether that's his name, his profession, or both is something that we haven't quite figured out yet.
Coward. But a useful coward, at least.
Anyway, the spirit within the gun eventually manifested itself into the body of my other robotic assistant, a little orange alligator robot called Chomsy.
You got that right, Bolts. We needed this vacation in the worst way. Hey, you mind passing me that sunscreen?
This is kind of the part where that weird things happen around the Orange Ranger really kicks in, as incidents with the morphing grid led to me being temporarily transformed into both a caveman.
Good. You good robot. You fix me. I review episode, you help me. Dino Gun, you help.
And a woman.
Oh, hi to all my favorite little review watchers out there. I'm Shauna Lee Fowler, and welcome to another Power Rangers Dino Charge episode review. This is going to be fabulous.
And through some genetic memory nonsense, both of them also became villains for my rogues gallery, Cabe Sean and Shauna. Unnecessarily long story short, I was eventually able to re-educate Master Shopep on the joys of reviewing, which in turn re-educated myself on the joys of reviewing, ensuring that I would never become Master Shopep and time travel shenanigans. Unfortunately, at the same time, an evil, malevolent entity known as the Silver Skull popped up, taking over the villains and seeking to take away my reviewer's energy. The last development there is that Silver Skull cursed me to review Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills, but I sort of cheated its deadline by sending Silver Skull through a dimensional portal.
You haven't heard the last of me. That curse remains on you, Orange Ranger. It lingers. Soon enough, I'll be drawn right back here. Have fun fearing my return.
We still pick up occasional ratings that Silver Skull is trying to return, so we'll see what happens there. This does actually tie in rather neatly to the last thing that I want to mention in this video. There are a lot of aspects of video creation that I do consider myself to be quite talented at. Writing, reviewing, analysis, video editing, etc., etc. One thing I am definitely not talented at, though, is visuals. You can see that in some of the graphics that I used for my earlier shows. Title slates, infographics, etc. A few years ago, I was approached on Twitter by a gentleman from the UK named Gary. I believe he found me because I had mentioned something due to Star Trek, which I am also a fan of. Gary runs a YouTube channel called Trekker Prize, though being honest, he's kind of scaled back from that lately and is more focused on a Star Trek-themed podcast called Warm Blanket. Gary checked out my YouTube channel and really enjoyed my work. It even inspired him to start looking into the Power Rangers franchise. So what does this have to do with anything whatsoever? Gary is also a professional graphic designer. He volunteered absolutely free to do brand new graphics for my channel, and he's been doing them ever since. Now, I will toot my own horn a little bit here. I am learning. The graphic sets used for Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters for Beverly Hills and for Power Rangers Beast Morphers are my own designs, as Gary was a little too booked up at the time to get those done. However, even I will say that comparing them to the stuff Gary's done, you can kind of see the enthusiastic amateur versus the professional. I can say with complete confidence that my channel would not be where it is today without Gary's help. I owe him a huge debt for that. If you are a fan of Star Trek, heck, even if you're not a fan of Star Trek, please check out www.trekkerprize.com and check out Gary's Warm Blanket podcast. Well, I think that just about covers it. If you are watching the PMC Tribute, or this is your first video that you've seen on my channel, you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/OrangeRangerVideos. My Twitter is @OrangeRangerVid, and I also have a Facebook fan page called Orange Ranger Videos. Basically, if you do an internet search for Orange Ranger Videos, it's very likely me that you're going to find somewhere or the other. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel to see all of my videos and get your notifications set up by hitting the thumbs up, the bell, and all that, etc., mixed up, etc. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel, you find yourself really loving what I do and you want to support what I do have support pages on Patreon or Ko-fi. Both of those can be found by searching for Orange Ranger Videos. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Happy PMC, and until next time, may the power protect you. Start off with a little bit of quick biographical info. That's me. My reviewing journey started in the year 2014. Oh yeah, by the way. But my interests tend to hone in on people and that is why today, the Miami Sports Report, Almost Gaming, and Almost Interesting. First and foremost is obviously my primary TV series. I'm not sure you've been able to tell, but I'm kind of a fan of that guy's work. What? Yoop, 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 yoop. And in case anybody's new here or didn't quite figure out my gag in naming Kaizoku, Power Rangers And in case anybody either didn't pick up on the gag or you're new to seeing me and my channel and stuff, I don't know. Pursued by a person who calls himself